say we got them covered, move forward. I say we got them covered, move forward. Hey! Congratulations to the Vision for choosing the party with vision in this coming election.
Today, the people of Nevis have a decision to make.
This coming general election, NRP got them covered. While passing through a global recession, Nevis still is moving forward. But there are some with evil intention, and they spreading rumors around. They say the government cannot function since 4 seasons shut down. So I took a tour around the island to check out the accusation, and the taxi driver tour guiding me was getting on. Why? I'm on the way. Look at what NRP has done. I'm on the way. Roads around the island, and I am so proud to see how they big up Uwali for what wasn't done in 14 years. NRP doing in less than 3. I'm on the way, better water facility. I'm on the way. Now we're bountiful and free, all because of NRP. The party with vision for the future, we're growing just like a hybrid tree, and covering all ends for all the people of Uwali. Now the visions have everything covered, we strictly voting for NRP. Now we got them covered, move forward. I said we got them covered, move forward. Hey!
I can assure you that the Nevis Reformation Party has big dreams and big plans. Today, the people of Nevis must decide who are the men of vision in politics.
Development drive and infrastructure, implementing new policies, and helping the youth to empower to obtain a college degree, giving concessions to small business so that the poor man could elevate. And now we have the two top scholars right here in our little state. All these are just a few things to mention of the work NRP has done, which was done in less than 3 years of their administration. Oh, from the world, I see new houses erected. I'm on the wall. Violence eradicated. Once again so peaceful and free. All because of NRP. And that is why St. Paul's and St. John, they strictly covering for
matters.
Yo! Leave this! Tell them who can handle, just leave this! Hey! I'm just show me your hand if you're voting. For Barry and NRP, we voting. Tell this is CM, we not joking. Yo! We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM, them a comedy, like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP, the performance party. CCM, them a comedy, like they want to film comic movie. Yeah. On elections day, when you see we go mark, we X. Plenty people are gonna vex. Inna the ink, we dip, we index. We voting for progress. So if you're voting for Paris, say, oh yeah. For NRP, just say, oh yeah. All Nevis people shout it out there. Shout it and make Paris hair. We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM, them a comedy, like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP, the performance party. CCM, them a comedy, like they want to film comic movie. Yeah, the Nevis Reformation Party, it's the best we ever had in this country. The opposition want to confront we, but they will never ever defeat we. And me say tell them performance matters. They wanna cry Nevis back in the gutters. They want poor people eat dry bread and butter. Them only care about the rich people suffer. We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM never comedy, like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP, the performance party. CCM never comedy, like they want to film comic movie. So if you're voting for Barry, put your hand in the air. Roberto Hector, put your hand in the air. Hensley Daniel, put your hand in the air. Put your voting thing in the air. Patrice Nesbitt, put your hand in the air. Patsy Hanley, put your hand in the air. Everybody jump like if you don't care. NRP winning this clear. We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM never comedy, like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP, the performance party. CCM never comedy, like they want to film comic movie. Yo! Don't bother ring up your face and bend, because after elections you're still our friend. Victory is sweet, so tell the CCM prepare for defeat. Don't take it personal, but Parry and the NRP winning every seat. Rah!
I can assure you that the Nevis Reformation Party has big dreams and big plans. Today, the people of Nevis must decide who are the men of vision in politics.
Say we got them covered, move forward. Say we got them covered, move forward. Hey! Congratulations to the Vision for choosing the party with vision in this coming election.
Today, the people of Nevis have a decision to make.
This coming general election, NRP got them covered. While passing through a global recession, Nevis still is moving forward. But there are some with evil intention, and they spreading rumors around. They say the government cannot function since 4 seasons shut down. So I took a tour around the island to check out the accusation, and the taxi driver tour guiding me was getting on. Why? I'm on the way. Look at what NRP has done. I'm on the way. Roads around the island, and I am so proud to see how they pick up who Now we just have everything covered. We strictly voting for NRP. So now we got them covered. Move forward. I said we got them covered. Move forward.
I can assure you that the Nevis Reformation Party has big dreams and big plans. Today, the people of Nevis must decide who are the men of vision in politics.
Development drive and infrastructure. Implementing new policies. And helping the youth to empower to obtain a college degree, giving concessions to small business so that the poor man could elevate. And now we have the top scholars right here in our little state. All these are just a few things to mention of the work NRP has done, which was done in less than 3 years of their administration. Oh, from the world, I see new houses erected. I'm on the world, citizens are no longer rejected. Once again, so peaceful and free. All because of NRP, the party with vision for the future. They're growing just like a hybrid tree. I'm on the way. I see many jobs created. I'm on the way. Violence eradicated. Once again, so peaceful and free. All because of NRP. And that is why St. Paul's and St. John, they strictly covering for Hensley. So now that we got everything covered, we strictly voting for NRP. St. James and St. Thomas are strictly voting for NRP. And now St. George is with us. Everybody voting for NRP. So we got them covered. Move forward. St. Paul. So we got them covered. Move forward. St. John. So we got them covered. Move forward. St. James. You know we got them covered. Move forward. St. Thomas's. So we got them covered. Move forward. St. George's. So we got them covered. Move forward. We got them covered. So we got them covered. Move forward. Move forward. I say we got them covered. Move forward. So we got them covered. Move forward. Move forward. I say we got them covered. Move forward.
Performance matters. NRP for the people. Performance matters. Performance for the people. Performance matters. Move Nevis to a better place. Performance matters. It's 5 more years, so keep the pace. Performance matters. Performance matters. Brand new roads, housing, education, healthcare, geothermal, wind farm, water project, cherry garden, police station. People of Nevis, when you go to the polls on election day, vote wisely, vote NRP. Performance matters.
Mommy,
Yes?
performance really matters.
Yo! Nevis! Tell them who can handle it, just leave this. Hey! I'm Mr. Show me your hand if you're voting. For Barry and NRP we voting. Tell this is CM we not joking. Yo! We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM them a comedy like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP. a commodity like they want to film comic movie. Yeah. On elections day, when you see we go mark we X, plenty people are gonna vex. Inna the ink we dip, we index, we voting for progress. So if you're voting for Paris, say oh yeah. For NRP, just say oh yeah. All Nevis people shout it out there, shout it and make Paris hair. We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM them a commodity like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP, the performance party. CCM them a commodity like they want to film comic movie. Yeah, the Nevis Reformation Party, it's the best we ever had in this country. The opposition want to confront we, but they will never ever defeat we. And me say tell them performance matters. They wanna cry Nevis back in the gutters. They want poor people eat dry bread and butter. Them only care about the rich people suffer. We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM never commodity like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP, the performance party. CCM never commodity like they want to film comic movie. So if you're voting for Paris, put your hand in the air. Roberto Hector, put your hand in the air. Hensley Daniel, put your hand in the air. Put your voting thing in the air. Patrice Nesbitt, put your hand in the air. Patsy Hanley, put your hand in the air. Everybody jump like if you don't care. NRP winning this clear. We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM never commodity like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP, the performance party. CCM never commodity like they want to film comic movie. Yo, don't bother ring up your face and bend, because after elections you're still our friend. Victory is sweet, so tell the CCM prepare for defeat. Don't take it personal, but Parry and the NRP winning every seat. Rah!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble.
I know me not play now. For real, show me your finger. Show me your finger. Show me your index finger, boy.
Got them covered, move forward. Got them
I can assure you that the Nevis Reformation Party has big dreams and big plans. Today, the people of Nevis must decide who are the men of vision in politics.
Say we got them covered, move forward. Say we got them covered, move forward. Hey! Congratulations to the Vision for choosing the party with vision in this coming election.
Today, the people of Nevis have a decision to make.
This coming general election, NRP got them covered. While passing through a global recession, Nevis still is moving forward. But there are some with evil intention, and they're spreading rumors around. They say the government cannot function since 4 seasons shut down. So I took a tour around the island to check out the accusation, and the taxi driver tour guiding me was getting on. Why? I'm on the way. Look at what NRP has done. I'm on the way. Roads around the island, and I am so proud to see how they dig up who I know we got them covered. Move forward. I said we got them covered. Move forward. Hey!
I can assure you that the Nevis Reformation Party has big dreams and big plans. Today, the people of Nevis must decide who are the men of vision in politics.
Development drive and infrastructure. Implementing new policies. And helping the youth to empower. To obtain a college degree. Giving concessions to small business. So that the poor man could elevate. And now we have the top scholars. Right here in our little state. All these are just a few things to mention. Of the works NRP has done. Which was done in less than 3 years of their administration. Oh, some of the world. I see new houses erected. I'm on the wall. Citizens are no longer rejected. Once again, so peaceful and free. All because of NRP. The party with vision for the future. They're growing just like a hybrid tree. I'm on the wall. I see many jobs created. I'm on the wall. Violence eradicated. Once again, so peaceful and free. All because of NRP. And that is why St. Paul's and St. John, they strictly covering for Hensley. So now that we got everything covered, we strictly voting for NRP. St. James and St. Thomas are strictly voting for NRP. And now St. George is with us, everybody voting for NRP. So we got them covered, move forward. St. Paul, so we got them covered, move forward. St. John, so we got them covered, move forward. St. James, you know we got them covered, move forward. St. Thomas, so we got them covered, move forward. St. George's, so we got them covered, move forward. We got them covered, so we got them covered, move forward. Move forward. I say we got them covered, move forward. So we got them covered, move forward. Move forward. I say we got them covered, move forward.
Performance matters. NRP for the people. Performance matters. Performance for the people. Performance matters. Move Nevis to a better place. Performance matters. It's 5 more years, so keep the pace. Performance matters. Brand new roads, housing, education, healthcare, geothermal, wind farm, water project, cherry garden, police station. People of Nevis, when you go to the polls on election day, vote wisely, vote NRP. Performance matters.
Mommy,
Yes?
performance really matters.
Yo! Leave this! Tell them who can handle, just leave this! Hey! I'm Mr. Show me your hand if you're voting. For Barry and NRP we voting. Tell this is CM we not joking. Yo! We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM them a comedy, like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP, the performance party. CCM them a comedy, like they want to film comic movie. Yeah, on election you see we go mark we X. Plenty people are gonna vex. Inna the ink we dip, we index. We voting for progress. So if you're voting for Paris, say oh yeah. For NRP, just say oh yeah. All Nevis people shout it out there. Shout it and make Paris here. We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM them a command it like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP, the performance party. CCM them a command it like they want to film comic movie. Yeah, the Nevis Reformation Party. It's the best we ever had in this country. The opposition want to confront we, but they will never ever defeat we. And me say tell them performance matters. They wanna cry Nevis back in the gutters. They want poor people eat dry bread and butter. Them only care about the rich people suffer. We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM never command it like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP, the performance party. CCM never command it like they want to film comic movie. So if you're voting for Paris, put your hand in the air. Roberto Hector, put your hand in the air. Hensley Daniel, put your hand in the air. Put your voting finger in the air. Patrice Nesbitt, put your hand in the air. Patsy Hanley, put your hand in the air. Everybody jump like if you don't care. NRP winning this clear. We voting for NRP, the performance party. CCM never command it like they want to film comic movie. It's for NRP, the performance party. CCM never command it like they want to film comic movie. Yo! Don't bother ring up your face and bend, because after elections you're still our friend. Victory is sweet, so tell the CCM prepare for defeat. Don't take it personal, but Parry and the NRP winning every seat. Rah!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I know me not playing up. For real, show me your finger. Show me your finger. Huh. Show me your index finger, boy. Huh. Show me your finger. Joke on a boy. Show me your finger. Huh. We voting for progress, voting for prosperity. Raise your finger, raise your index finger. For freedom of speech and of religion, justice and integrity. Raise your finger, raise your index finger. Against corruption, against deception, illegal activities. Raise your finger, raise your index finger. For good governance and employment to develop the country. Raise your finger, raise your index finger. The trip to appeal court was merely a blindfold.
We must all do our part to rid ourselves of this disease. For starters, let's practice good hygiene and social distancing. We continue to pray for our nurses and medical practitioners as they work tirelessly to prepare themselves to protect us from this pandemic. This message was brought to you by the Nevis Reformation Party.
For the best in news and politics, visit www.nrp2020.com.
Yo!
As youths of today, we are the leaders of tomorrow.
We must all do our part to rid ourselves of this disease. For starters, let's practice good hygiene and social distancing. We continue to pray for our nurses and medical practitioners as they work tirelessly to prepare themselves to protect us from this pandemic. This message was brought to you by the Nevis Reformation Party.
For the best in news and politics. Visit www.nrp2020.com.
Yo!
As youths of today, we are the leaders of tomorrow. What are you waiting for? Join the NRP Youth Arm today.
We voting for NRP, the Performance Party.
NRP Minute News coming soon. Stay logged on to www.nrp2020.com.
We must all do our part to rid ourselves of this disease. For starters, let's practice good hygiene and social distance.
Good evening, everyone. I am Roberto Hector, President and leader of the Nevis Reformation Party. Tonight, we visit you in the comfort of your home. Or perhaps you may be on duty, as is prescribed at this time, if you are an essential worker. This is the second meeting in a series of virtual meetings that we have planned. Our aim is to share with you our ideas as a party and to interact with you, especially during this time. We intend to do this over the next 3 weeks, 3 Wednesdays to be exact, throughout this month. We do apologize for not being able to take your calls this evening, but your comments will be noted. And if it is placed in the question form, we will seek to respond to you throughout this program. Tonight with me, I have the chairman of the party, the Honorable Patrice Nisbet. Joining us later will be Dr. Gilbert Daniel, who would share some thoughts with us on the effect and impact of COVID-19. He may perhaps be able to offer us some solutions as we face this crisis. Before we gather depth in tonight's meeting, I would want to offer words of prayers for those in quarantine or even isolation, those who work on the front line as service providers, and for us, the general public who is seeking at this time to stay safe. Would you please bow your heads with me as I offer this prayer? Blessed are you, Lord, God of mercy, who through your Son gave us a marvelous example of charity and the great commandment of love for one another. Send down your blessings on these, your servants, who so generously devote themselves to helping others. When they are called on in times of need, let them faithfully serve you in their neighbor. We ask this in Christ, O Lord. God, as more people get sick, healthcare workers and first responders are working longer hours with fewer supplies and with more risk of contracting the new coronavirus themselves. Renew their energy and sustain them on long shifts. Bring your protection upon them as they work with patience. Multiply their supplies so they have the protective items needed to stay safe on the job. Inspire and invigorate the research doctors, developing better tests to diagnose the virus. We ask for you to allow them to create vaccines to prevent it and identify protocols to eliminate the disease spread. This we ask in Christ's name. Amen. Our discussion this evening will be centered around the economic impact of the coronavirus on the Federation and to a greater extent on Nevis. Let me begin by saying I am not a medical doctor, and the information that I'm about to present to you would have been gathered from research. It was back in December 31st, 2019, when the new coronavirus was first identified. And it is important that we keep these dates in mind. The World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency and one of international concern back in January, the 30th to be exact, 2020. It was declared a pandemic on March 11th, 2020 by the same organization. As of today, it is heart-wrenching for us to realize that some 1.5 million persons worldwide would have been infected. As of today, we recognize 87,000 persons have lost their life. We have had approximately 317,000 persons who have recovered. And this is across some 137 countries of the world. As I looked at the figures, for the US, I'm seeing that we've had some 15,000 deaths to date. We have had something like 429,000 confirmed cases. And it is important for us to look at the dates because I'm of the view that in my little country, little was done by the powers that be. I would want at this time, like others, to ask that we continue to follow the established guidelines for prevention. Follow the social distance requirements to prevent the spread. We must remember to frequently wash our hands using soap, water, and alcohol, as those would have been the means prescribed to control the spread. I want you to be reminded that we are told we should cover our mouths. We should make sure that we bend at the elbow in instances when we sneeze. We should avoid touching our face, our eyes, our mouth. And we are told even further that if we find ourselves experiencing cough, fever, shortness of breath, we are to contact our health professionals. In Nevis, we have been given the hotline, the number 311 or 615051. I repeat, 311 or 6615051. The NRP party, and I would recall that on the 11th of March, as the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, I called for real contingencies to be put in place. I called then for the establishment of a task force. I remember in the short address that I gave, I told the nation that I was guided by Dr. Clive Lindis, UII COVID Task Force member. I also remember saying that now was the time for us to move to Parliament and to legislate on a financial assistance plan for the next 6 months. We had to immediately address student loans, income substitution, mortgage payments, unemployment benefits. And at that time, when we made the call, it was because we would have realized the seriousness of this disease. In our last campaign, a successful campaign that ended on the 5th of March. I remember on the campaign trail, we asking that the federal government, the local government, take this disease serious. I would even go further, and I would say to you, Mr. Hensley Daniel, I recall, our specialist in health-related matters, he too, in a subsequent address, said to us, and if I am to quote him, I remember him saying, we ought to get better outcomes from our investment in health. He too saw the preparation for this disease as being haphazard. We were ill prepared. It is our feeling that the shortage of protective equipment is really inexcusable for our health workers. I would want to submit that I am convinced that healthcare is not a priority for the government at this time. I believe as we go throughout this time, I believe we should take this as an opportunity. And Mr. Daniel raised this some time back. An opportunity for us to be better planners. We should know now, at this stage, what our medical needs would be for the next 15 years. It is a small population, and I would say proper planning is necessary. I would not want this evening to take us back to issues that have surfaced so far. Issues that we would recall in which some of our doctors who were studying overseas were forgotten. When they returned, they were told by the present government that we were expecting you a year from now. I believe we should use this opportunity, as I have said, as Mr. Daniels have said, for proper planning as it relates to our health care on the island. It is time that we look seriously at the introduction of the National Health Scheme. This, we believe, as has happened across the globe, it is out loud for us to close the gap in terms of quality of healthcare, access to healthcare and cost of healthcare. The opportunity is for us at this time to address the weaknesses of our healthcare delivery system. And I'm saying at this time, there's definitely an issue. There's definitely a problem with our healthcare system in Nevis. I've said before that the indication has already been given that the government at hand is not serious about healthcare. And I raise this against the backdrop that in 2013, the NRP government would have been responsible for 2 machines that were placed at the Alexandra Hospital. They were purchased by us because we recognize that the issue of dialysis had become important in this country. I recall we approved $225,000 to purchase the 2 equipment. I recall that we left government. And it was our hope that the Minister of Health then would have been serious with the mandate that was given to him and would have ensured that these machines became operational. What was the response? And I am sure you would remember the response. Our then minister indicated to us that he was of the view that the Nevis Reformation Party had paid $225,000 for machines that he believed had only worth $80,000 on the market. He told the people that it was an election gimmick and that we hadn't planned for this. There were no nurses trained. He further indicated to us that he himself would deliver on the promises. In June of 2014, he journeyed to Guyana and he promised the delivery to those patients who were suffering or experiencing renal failure. I would say to you, today is 2020. In 2018, we saw the Taiwanese offering to our government another $167,000 to this cause. To date, our patients with renal failure have not yet been able to be dialyzed in Nevis. I would even go further. And I would say to you that we were promised a $19 million expansion on our hospital. We were promised that when construction or ground was broken in 2017, we were promised that a state-of-the-art hospital would be delivered. This is 2020, and still we have not seen the delivery as promised. It is my belief and it is my conviction that our government has failed us. I would want to say to you, given the present time, the state of panic was caused by our authorities. Failure to close our border in a timely manner. We are now experiencing a suspension or a late rolling out of relief. Persons just can't have access. Today, I was greeted by a constituent who said to me he would have gone to Social Security hoping to register for the benefit that was promised. He was told he would have to first speak with the people at the Labor Department. He journeyed to the Labor Department, and the Labor Department was unaware as to how this disbursement would be made. We are now in a state of emergency. And so that constituent who called is at this time having some difficulty. So even though zoning, the new buzzword and the new approach was done today, it ended in chaos. Persons are suffering at this time. I believe had our government moved with haste, having recognized what was happening throughout the world, our citizens today, tonight, would have been in a much better position. And so it is my contention that our government has failed us in some regard. And of course, the opportunity was missed for collaboration. We offered as a party the hand of friendship to work with the government in terms of making sure that we were able to plan effectively and efficiently to meet what was facing us. I cannot tell you that, like you, I am not scared. I'm scared because I know for a fact there are only 4 ventilators at our hospital to serve a population of almost 11,000. And so when I say to you tonight, the preparation was not done, you would understand the concern and you would understand why at this time I am saying, like you, I am scared. I have looked and I have realized that our Prime Minister now chooses the most inappropriate time to deliver his national addresses, 9:30 in the evening. And so a lot of it is missed. I can only advise that critical addresses like those given by our Prime Minister should be done at an earlier time of the day, where each and every member of the population can have an understanding of what is happening around him. I would want to say at this time, the situation at hand is a very serious one. We have seen the effect globally. The OECD Secretary General Angela Guerra predicted that many countries would fall into recession, and countries would be dealing with economic fallouts as a result of COVID-19 for years to come. We have seen the major industries, automotive, electronic, pharmaceutical, medical equipment, consumer goods, all affected. Businesses are experiencing lost revenue. We've seen factories closing, disruption in the supply chain. We're realizing that many are saying that this shock on the world may be even greater than 2007 to 2009. I would want at this time to say to you that I also recognize the commitment of serious governments. The UK on March 22nd announced that the government is willing to pay up to 80% of its wages of employers, its employers. The Danish government has also made a commitment to pay 75% of the employees' salary if the firms would continue and not cut staff. We have also seen the US announce on March 25th $2 trillion, a plan to assist its population. I would want to say to you, we need a government with a serious commitment to move forward. We will take a break at this time. And when I come back, I would ask the Honorable Patrice Nisbet to make his contribution.
We must all do a part to rid ourselves of this disease. For starters, let's practice good hygiene and social distancing. We continue to pray for our nurses and medical practitioners as they work tirelessly to prepare themselves to protect us from this pandemic. This message was brought to you by the Nevis Reformation Party.
For the best in news and politics, visit www.nrp2020.com.
As youths of today, we are the leaders of tomorrow. What are you waiting for? Join the NRP U-Time today.
We voting for NRP, the Performance Party.
NRP Minute News coming soon. Stay logged on to www.nrp2020.com.
We must all do a part to rid us.
Just before the break, I began speaking to you about serious commitments that I have seen. And so I believe the commitments as presented by our government, in my mind, are not as significant as they ought to be. Just today, I got word on the proposal that would be offered by NEVLEC. And the proposal as presented read this way. Your electricity provider, NEVLET, recognizes that COVID-19 is creating much more than a health crisis of magnitude which previously was unimaginable. It has put businesses, particularly in the tourism industry, and their employees as well, as more self-employed individuals in serious economic hardship. As a result, NEVLEC has decided to help by providing the following relief. For hotels and businesses directly affected by COVID-19, NEVLEC will allow the deferment of payment of their electricity for April through to June, on condition that any outstanding amount owed prior to April is cleared. For businesses other than hotels and restaurants, the business owner will have to provide evidence of being affected to benefit from this relief. It goes on, for legitimate residents of Nevis who have been laid off or whose income has been significantly reduced, including self-employed individuals, NEVLEC will provide 50% discount on their electricity bills from April through to June. To qualify for this benefit, one must present evidence that he or she is benefiting from relief from Social Security as a result of COVID-19 and must have an electricity account in his or her name or provide evidence that he or she is responsible for an electricity account, such as a lease agreement in his name or his location. It must be noted that NEVLEC too is affected by COVID-19. And for us to be able to provide the above relief and to remain solvent, we expect that our customer who are not affected directly to pay the bills in full and on time. We hope that this gesture on our part and the cooperation and understanding of everyone would help us. It would help see us through COVID-19. And as I read this note from NEVLEC, I saw the disconnect between those who sent out this press release and what is the actual reality. What is the actual reality on the ground? This is a time, as I said before, where governments are showing a serious commitment to the cause. NEVLEC in itself is a company with a monopoly. And for the average individual, this is a time when you are to say as an institution that you're going to waive all charges for the next 3 or 4 months. We do that on a day-to-day basis when we give all these huge concessions to the hotel industry. This time is a time when we should make sure that we waive the electricity charges. I bear in mind the constituent who called me earlier today, and he had a problem. And his problem, that was for the last 2 weeks, he had not drawn a salary, to no fault of his. He did indicate to me he would have traveled to Social Security so that he can benefit from the relief, the $1,000 that was promised to him. And so today, when the zoning was in effect, he was unable to do the shopping as anyone else would have. This is someone, and I'm sure there are others, who I am saying to you could benefit from the relief, a total relief at this time, because it is needed. I want to say even further that I have recognized that there's also made provision in terms of the decrease in property taxes. Taxes for unincorporated business. It is my firm belief that the situation at hand is unprecedented. It is a situation that needs a much firmer commitment so that the average man can really have some relief. I believe that the package that is being put together was hastily done. And of course, as I said earlier, it lacked the benefit of collaboration from all of us. I would want to say that our government must demonstrate to us that it truly understands the plight of the Nivision public at this time. And these copy and paste, as I would call them, relief or suggestions, I believe they should be better placed at this time. And I'm sure my colleague, Mr. Nisbet, would identify for you some of the proposals that we have sat and coined. We have made calls before, and it has fallen on deaf ears. We told you immediately you should expand the poverty alleviation program. We were told that it was expanded, but persons are not being able to benefit from it. We have said over and over again, if we are thinking seriously about our people, we would make sure that we look at the household and offer a package that is meaningful. I am not sure that $1,000 in any way can be considered a livable wage. I'm not sure that $1,000 would be able to suffice for the average man. It's below minimum wage. And so you ask yourself if serious thought was put into this measure of relief. I'll take a break at this time again and give the opportunity, if the technical difficulties have been solved, to Mr. Nisbet, Honorable Patrice Nisbet, to speak to us.
We must all do our part to rid ourselves of this disease. For starters, let's practice good hygiene and social distancing. We continue to pray for our nurses and medical practitioners as they work tirelessly to prepare themselves to protect us from this pandemic. This message was brought to you by the Nevis Reformation Party.
For the best in news and politics, visit www.nrp2020.com.
Yo!
As youths of today, we are the leaders of tomorrow. What are you waiting for? Join the NRP Youth Arm today.
We voting for NRP, the performance party.
NRP Minute News coming soon. Stay logged on to www.nrp2020.com.
We must all do a part.
Gives me pleasure at this moment to present to you the Honorable Patrice Nisbet.
Good evening, and let me say good evening to the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, Mr. E.O. Belter Hector, and it is good to see that Mr. Hector is staying in good shape, in good health, and he is indeed aware of the challenges with which we are facing with regards to this pandemic that has engulfed the world, and now it is here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and in Nevis in particular. Of course, we were told at one point in time that we were indeed a model nation in the Western Hemisphere as it relates to the issue of COVID-19. But we were later told, or we were later advised as to what was transpiring with regards to the occurrence of positive cases here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And before one deals with the various challenges and the response that we have heard from the policymakers here in St. Kitts and Nevis in particular, I would want to offer my condolences to the family of Mr. Kenneth Jones. He passed away a couple of days ago, and I am advised that his body would be interned tomorrow in a service to be held here in the constituency of Nevis 11. Of course, you would know that Mr. Jones, he was a contractor of some fame, and he was indeed an ardent supporter of the Nevis Reformation Party. I know his family very well. He has a son who is my childhood buddy. We grew up together, we went to class together, and we did most things together. And so I would want to offer him a special condolences at this time of his bereavement, and that is Mr. Kenneth Jones Jr. He's somewhere down in the BVI at this time, and he advised me that he is on lockdown, and he will be locked down, I believe, until around the 17th or the 19th of April. That is the way of life at these times. I would want also to offer, like Mr. Hector, my prayers and my support to those professionals who are presently on the front line in this battle with regards to COVID-19. Our doctors, our nurses, our healthcare professionals, we want to express our profound thank you for the service that you are providing this time to the people of the Federation of St. Christopher and Nevis. Of course, I would hope that you would have at your disposal the necessary protective equipment that is required in order to protect yourself and in order to carry out the required tasks at hand. I would also want to thank our law enforcement agency, police force, the defense force, and all those who have to work very long hours so as to ensure that the necessary regulations, the necessary guidelines that have been imposed, that have been recommended by the professionals, that they are being adhered to by the citizenry. I am advised that if the necessary guidelines are adhered to, we will be able to save lives here in St. Christopher and Nevis. And of course, I would also want to offer some sympathy and some support to those 4 persons who we understand have been diagnosed with the virus. Also to the families of those persons who are indeed at this time in a rather uncomfortable position. But if I am to take the word of the chief medical officer who spoke some days ago at a briefing, she would have indicated to the nation in no uncertain terms and in very clear and unambiguous and unequivocal language that these persons are indeed recovering. I think, if I remember the words correctly, they were to the effect that they are recovering nicely. And so, with that, I would think that there is the hope and the necessary assurance that those persons who have become afflicted or infected by this virus will, at some point in time, have a complete recovery. And we will be able to see a new chart issued by the relevant authorities saying that those persons have in fact recovered from the COVID-19 situation. And so I wish them well, all those who are in quarantine, whether it is quarantine in a government, whether it's quarantine in your home. I would want to say that the prayers of the warriors and soldiers of the Nevis Reformation Party are indeed with you. And we would want to ensure that you follow the necessary guidelines that the healthcare professionals would have issued to you. This afternoon or sometime today, I got word, or I saw a press release, a very lengthy press release from the Nevis Island administration. And I believe that a minister in the administration would have been the individual who would have been responsible for the issuance of the statement that was made. And I saw a caption which says that COVID-19 halts Nevis Culturama 2020. COVID-19. In other words, we are being told that Culturama for 2020 has been cancelled. It is April. And Culturama normally takes place sometime in July, August. And we are indeed some months away from the hosting of that particular event. And when I looked at the statement, it caused me to ponder and to ask myself, really, is the government saying, what message is the government giving to the general public here in Nevis? Are they saying that they are with information to suggest that in July, August of 2020, that they would not be in a position to say that they would have managed the situation effectively with regards to COVID-19? Because if the premise of the statement is that COVID-19 is what is the driving force or the primary reason why Culturama is being cancelled, it would appear that they are saying that in July and August of 2020, they would not have had a handle on the situation with regards to COVID-19. I would hope that is not what they are telling, or that is not what they want to say to the people of the country, because the people of the country are now making tremendous sacrifice. And they would want to believe in their mind that by July and August, the government will no longer be struggling to deal with this situation with regards to COVID-19. People would want to think in their mind that in July and August of 2020, the government would be on top of the situation in relation to COVID-19. And so I would hope that the caption of the article really is not an indication or is not indicative of what would be the state of affairs when July and August of 2020 comes. But you know, I didn't just only look at the headline. I took some time, reading glasses, to read the statement that was issued by the Minister of Culture. And I went down to a paragraph. And in that paragraph, if you bear with me for a moment, I am going to read it. And I believe I discovered what was the real reason why Culturama of 2020 was being cancelled. And I would want, after reading it, if you, the audience viewing and listening, would agree with me that it is as a result of this why Culturama of 2020 is being cancelled. So let me read the paragraph to you. And this is the words of the minister, a minister from the CCM-led Nevis and administration. And this is what he had to say to the people of Nevis, the people of St. Kitts, and the people in the diaspora with regards to the cancellation of Culturama 2020. He said, "It is no secret that Culturama is is in most part funded by the Nevis Island administration. And last year, our expenditure totaled over $800,000. The NIA has already lost and will continue over the next few months to lose millions of dollars in revenue. Coupled with this, that will assist the hundreds of employees affected by the pandemic. This automatically means that the NIA finances will be on, making it extremely difficult to allocate funds to support the festival. And so it is obvious from reading that paragraph, you would realize that what he's saying is that the NIA is broke. The government minister has confirmed. The CCM-led administration government ministers confirmed to the people of Nevis, the voters, the constituents, that he is a part of a broke government. They have no money to host our local festival here on the island of Nevis. And so one would want to ask ourselves, why would the government be diverting monies from cultural to health? I am sure that there was a budget in December that would have allocated resources for health. The budget is there, the money has to be spent. And so I don't understand why is there a need, as he's saying, for monies to be transferred or diverted to other initiatives. Is it that the monies that were there for the initiatives or the health budget, has it been exhausted? Like to say, we only have 4 ventilators. We haven't heard about millions of dollars being invested in the PPEs or ventilators. We have not heard that from our government. We have not heard millions of dollars being invested in testing. And we know from the international community that testing is very important. It's a very important component in the fight against COVID-19. So where are these funds being diverted to? Where? And he says that the NIA finances are going to be used to assist hundreds of employees that have been affected. I have read 2 speeches from our premier, and in none of the speeches, he said that monies from the NIA will be placed in the hands of workers who are affected by this pandemic. And so we need to rubbish that part of the statement that was made by this minister, because he needs to show the people of Nevis where he says that hundreds, monies will be put, funds will be put into the hands of hundreds of employees. Where that was said, because I'm sure the workers of the employees of the country will indeed be grateful if the NIA isn't going to put funds in their hands. I'm sure they would have been happy to do that, to go shopping today, because some people are without a salary. I wonder if these funds are just the regular wages and salaries of government employees, because those are not the only employees in the country. There are other employees in the country who have been affected by this pandemic. And so I would want to put that in the outer order bundle, because there's no policy pronouncement from this Nevis Island administration. Monies are going to come from the Nevis and be placed directly in hands of the employees here on the island of Nevis. There's no, and so it further buttresses the point that I am making, that the reason why they are canceling the Culturama, it has nothing to do with the pandemic. Because I believe everybody in Nevis believes that by July, August, the relevant authorities will be in a position to say that they have a handle on this virus. And we know that if they are in fact broke, because some time ago, the government took up $1.7 million to refurbish, let's say, the Culturama village. So then they had money. So where is the money now? You are telling me that you have a prime minister of the country saying that we have given to the people of Nevis over $200 million of support. And that doesn't appear to include budgetary support. And with over $200 million in support, you are now saying to the people of Nevis that for 2020, the year of perfect vision, we can't have Culturama because essentially the government is broke. The government finances cannot sustain the keeping of Culturama. This is indeed a serious indictment on the government in relation to their fiscal management of the affairs of Nevis. And no amount of masquerading and saying that it is as a result of COVID-19 is going to get away from the fact that the funds, as the minister say, are not there to keep Culturama this year. That is the long and short of the story. You all really believe in this modern day in Nevis? The government of the day could tell us that there is no money to keep Culturama? And the people of Nevis are supposed to accept this? As this is the norm? As this is right and proper? I would want to urge the voters, the constituents out there, that it is as a result of the mismanagement of the finances of Nevis. That is why we can't have no Culturama in 2020. And it has nothing to do with the pandemic that we now face. It has nothing to do with that. They have used the opportunity now to use this smoke screen to justify the cancellation of Culturama. But when you look at the statement in depth, you would realize what is the real reason for the cancellation of Culturama 2020. And so our artisans, our calypsonian, our revelers, all those persons who look forward to cultural, to enjoying the festival. The government of the day has disappointed you. The government of the day has failed you. I know Mr. Hector like to go and play his clown. The only clown that he'll be playing in July and August might be in the courtroom. But it certainly will not be on the streets of Charleston. Let's see, organize his own community festival in Charlestown. That might be an idea for others to do. If you want to have some fun, because I believe after this lockdown, shutdown, after all this closure, the people of the country will need some release. They will need some form of entertainment so as to take their minds off of what their experience has been in recent times. I would want to move on this evening and to basically address one or two other matters. And before I do so, we were supposed to this evening have the presence of Dr. Gilbert Daniel. But my understanding is that he's running late, the doctor, and so he has had some patient issues, and he may be able to join us a little later on the program. We were also advised today that Miss Marcella Westerman from Charlestown, she also passed to the great beyond. And so to her immediate family, her children, her siblings, her grandchildren, and all her friends, we in the Nevis Reformation Party would want to express our deepest condolences to the family. So Hector is from Charlestown, where she's from, so he might be in a much more better position later to give a much more detailed condolence in that matter. But I would want to address the response of the Nevis Island administration to the economic challenges that we in Nevis are facing as a result of this pandemic. We know that basically all the productive the economy here on the island of Nevis have been shut down. There's no production. I would imagine that on some days, the bakeries might open, the supermarkets might open, the courier services might open, the pharmacies might open, hospital is always open, but primarily, those are the services that continue to operate as businesses in Nevis under very limited circumstances. And so, with the productive sectors of the economy closed, it means that there is necessary fallout. It means that there are repercussions. And real people, real lives and real livelihoods are indeed adversely impacted by the measures that have been taken, and also as a result of what is happening in the global community. Planes don't fly, the cruise ships don't come, the tourists don't come. And our economy is very much dependent and very much reliant upon the tourism sector. Our major hotel plant in Nevis, they are out at the moment. I believe that most, if not all, have been closed down. And as a result of such closure, it means that those persons who are engaged or employed in the tourism sector, they have been affected. They have been affected. Whether they have been severed, whether they have been laid off, or whether they have now reduced hours of work. And in any of those situations, it would mean that there would be reduced income. And with reduced income, it means that your ability to maintain your standard of living as it was before this situation would in fact diminish, would be adversely impacted. It would mean that you would not be in a position to afford certain things. You will not be in a position, let's say, to pay your mortgage, to pay your light bill, your water bill, your property tax, or whatever other obligation that you would have with any individual or institution. Also, you might not be in a position to buy food and take care of your family. Those are the realities that flow from what has transpired in St. Kitts and Nevis as a result of the emergence of COVID-19 here in our country. And so we would want to examine briefly what has been the response of our Nevis and administration in relation to assistance for our workers. We heard two addresses by our Premier, the Minister of Finance, early on. He told you and he forecasted that there will be major economic fallout, major cancellations in terms of bookings at the hotels. That's what he said. But in those speeches, he never offered any measure, any level of relief, any level of support for the workers of the country. He said he was waiting on the Prime Minister. He waiting on him. But the people of Nevis did not elect him. The workers in Nevis, the constituents and voters of Nevis, they voted for the government in Nevis led by the Premier. They did not vote for a man in Bastia. And so they wanted to hear from our Premier, from the Premier of the country, what was his plan? What was his economic package of assistance for the workers of the country. He didn't have that. He didn't have any. He said he was waiting for it. And so eventually word came. Word came that they were going to offer the workers of the country, those who would have been affected by the various closures, shut down, laid off, reduced hours of work for them, some income support, head support. And lo and behold, we were told that that would be in the sum, the measly sum of $1,000 per month. And, you know, maybe I shouldn't say that it's $1,000 a month, because it is not really $1,000 a month. Because what they're saying to you, and Mr. Amri gave a speech recently, the Senior Minister of Labor, speech quite recently, where he says that if you get less than $400, all that they're offering you is a top up to $1,000. And so we asked, $1,000 per month. How was that arrived at? How did they get to the figure of $1,000 per month? Because when you see $1,000, you'd realize that when it is compared to what is the minimum wage in the country, you would observe that it is less than the minimum wage. Because if you divide 4 into 1,000, I think you get $250 a week. The minimum wage here is $360. And so one would have thought that this government, if it cared about the workers, if it cared about the sacrifice and the contribution that these workers would have made to the development of the various sectors of our society, the least that they could have done was to offer the workers of the country at least the minimum wage. And so after Tim came and said that, one would have thought that the Premier of Nevis, now looking after the affairs of the people of Nevis and the workers of Nevis, he would have said, I am going to top it up to at least the minimum wage. But he has not done so. He has not done so. And so I want tonight to say to the workers that the Premier and the Prime Minister has done you a disservice. Imagine they are offering you less than a minimum wage. And you know, if your rent is $800 or $500, how are you going to be able to manage with? How are you going to manage with $1,000 per month? It is virtually impossible. And so I believe that the proper response from your government should at least have been saying that they're going to offer you the minimum wage in this situation. At least that. Because we know there are other programs. I think it is called what? The Alternative Pathways Program, Lifestyle Program. where persons are being paid. Persons are being paid $500 a week, $750 a week in order to keep the peace. And here, you have persons who have been law-abiding citizens, who have made their contribution to our society, to family life, to country. And now they are in a period of difficulty through no fault of their own, not of their own. They are in a situation as a result of some negligence on the part of the government. Because the government was advised long time ago to close our borders. And they didn't do that. As a matter of fact, they say we were going against the herd. We will go against the herd. We will not follow the herd. And that is why today we are where we are at as a result. As a result of some degree of negligence on the part of the government to protect the people of the country. I am advised that we are going to take a break at this time.
We must all do our part to rid ourselves of this disease. For starters, let's practice good hygiene and social distancing. We continue to pray for our nurses and medical practitioners as they work tirelessly to prepare themselves to protect us from this pandemic. This message was brought to you by the Nevis Reformation Party.
For the best in news and politics, visit www.nrp2020.com.
As youths of today, we are the leaders of tomorrow. What are you waiting for? Join the NRP U-Time today.
We voting for NRP, the Performance Party.
NRP Minute News coming soon. Stay logged on to www.nrp2020.com.
We must all do our part to rid ourselves of this.
Welcome back to our virtual meeting. And when we departed, or when we broke, I was at the time speaking in relation to our government's response, in relation to its income support, wage support for the workers of the country. And it is the position of the Nevis Reformation Party that we are dissatisfied with what is being proposed. And when one looks also at the proposal, you would realize that those persons who are self-employed, some who would be directly affected, some taxi drivers, they would not have worked since March, early March. They would not have been in a position to earn an income since March. And we are told that if you are self-employed, there is no assistance for you in terms of income and wage support. They are saying that if you are not registered with Social Security as a self-employed person, you will not be able to access the $1,000. Is this fair? Because what you're doing, the COVID-19 relief program at Social Security, it's not nothing that persons would have contributed to. It's not like some benefit that is there on the books at Social Security that you can claim. This is a government-led program where funds from, it appears, from Social Security will be used in order to fund this program. And I would want to say tonight that all of us would have contributed to the pool of funds in Social Security. And so if Social Security funds are being used, or government funds are being used, well then, why do you access to that type of funding? Why do you do that? Because all of us would have contributed to that pool of funds. And so if difficulties arise, if challenges arise, and the funds are being accessed, well then it is only fair and reasonable in the circumstances that all persons benefit from the fund, whether you're registered or not. Once you have your business license and you're paying your business tax, I believe that you should in fact be able to make a claim and get the requisite support in this difficult time. I am told that the senior minister of labor was asked the question last night. And I think the program is called leadership. Well, he offered no leadership on the matter. No leadership whatsoever. Because he's saying that people must write a letter. Write a letter? For who to make a decision? You are going to end up with arbitrary, capricious decisions. And we know in this country, if you write the letter on blue paper, well, you don't get through. But if you write the paper on green or red paper, you certainly will in fact be rejected. And that can't be the way how you make policy. The policy has to be transparent and it has to apply across the board for each and everyone to benefit. Because it is not only green people or red people or blue people or orange people pay into the Social Security scheme. All of us contribute to that scheme. And so if monies are going to be taken from the scheme so as to bring some relief to workers in the country, I believe that all and sundry should benefit as a result of that. If this was some fund that you had to contribute to and you didn't make any contribution, well then I could understand why there would be no benefit. But this is not the factual matrix. This is something that has been created to deal with the existing situation. And there is no reason, no justifiable reason in terms of policy why a certain category of worker in the country should be excluded from benefit. There is none. And the Nevis Reformation Party says that all who are affected by this pandemic in St. Kitts and Nevis, self-employed or not, they should in fact have access to the necessary funding. You know, they are saying that persons should apply. And so, Dr. Daly would have posted something online. And we went today to try and assist the workers of the country to ensure that they complete the application forms. Apart from the ordinary division, there are some people of Hispanic descent who live here and they sometimes have challenges in communicating. And so we gave the necessary assistance. We had over in translators with us. And so we were able to assist over 200 persons today in completing the application form. And tomorrow, I would want to invite the people of St. John's and St. George to come to Value Mart, because the team from the Nevis Reformation Party will be there to assist workers in these areas in completing the application process so that you could access the necessary benefit. But that is the problem. The problem is that they have to go to labor. You have to go to the Department of Labor. And the question that one would want to ask is, when last the Department of Labor opened in Nevis? When last? When last the officers from the Department of Labor were at work? So you have been told, listen, there's a benefit for you. And you have to go Social Security. You have to get this form. You have to go to labor for the Labor Department to sign off. But Social Security shut down. The Labor Department shut down. Well, how would the people of the country get access to the benefit? When you are telling them, listen, go and shop for essential supplies. Go to the pharmacy. Go to wherever. But you don't go there and say, Timothy send you or Brantley send you. You have to go there with money. One would have thought that if you are going to offer this type of income support to the workers who have been out of work for such a long time, might have no money. Some may have to borrow money. Some may have to dig into their savings. And once you start digging into your savings, you know what that means. It's a challenge. So we would have thought that they would have made the resources or the income support readily available. Now you are going to be locked down for 7 days. And you're told, go and shop. And up to now, not one single worker. I believe this announcement was made on the 24th of March. We are now today on the 8th of April. And up to now, not one single affected worker in the country has received their income support. So people are wondering, is this for real or this is a farce? Because it has to be that if the government had thought that this was important, they would have made Social Security and the Labor Department essential services at this time, so that persons can go to the various departments and get the necessary paperwork complete so that there can be processing of their claims and they can receive their monies in their accounts. The 6th, you are going to be locked down from Thursday until next week, Thursday. Thursday is the 9th until the 16th. It's going to be nearly a month. And up to now, there has been no movement in relation to accessing the income support so as to bring the required relief to the workers of the country. It appears that the government wanted to exhaust all the money that you have saved before you could get the little sugar cake. That's how it appears to me. And that cannot be satisfactory. This doesn't demonstrate a caring government. But you know, all it has to do with what Mr. Hector would have said earlier in his presentation, the lack of proper and effective planning to address what was coming in relation to this pandemic. I'd move because we were advised that the government was going to bring a package of relief for a very important sector of our economy. Very important. And we searched the speeches up and down and all over. And we realized that there is nothing in the package for small business, the small business sector. The small businesses, they are the engines of growth in any economy. They are hurting. They are hurting in this economy. They were hurting in the economy before, and it has now been exacerbated by this situation. I heard a small businessman said recently, he can't remember the last time he saw money. And if this situation continues, in terms of the lack of support for our small business sector, it means that some small businesses will go under. We were already experiencing under CCM a disappearance of various small businesses from the economic landscape in Nevis. So post-COVID-19, it would appear a number of our small businesses will disappear. The NRP, in its recommendation, we propose a plethora. We propose a plethora of recommendations how to address the small business sector. He gave an address and he outlined some measures that I think were appropriate in of assistance to the small business sector, so as to bring the necessary support that is required for that sector. And they're there on our website for all to see. But what is this government saying to the small business sector? They're saying that you must go and get a loan. What loan you're going to get if you're not making any money? Because the basic premise of getting a loan is that you're going to demonstrate to some institution that you can pay it back. But if you're not making any money and they look at your financials, what are they going to say? They are going to say to you, I ain't gonna give you no money, because you're not in a position to repay the loan. And so, what small businesses need at this time is grants, so that they can recapitalize, restock. Some half grant, half loan, something like that. So as to give them some boost in this very trying economic time. The proposals that they have put forward, it make no sense. They are going to say to a small business, if it is incorporated, they give you 50% off in relation to your corporation tax. They're going to say 50% off if you're unincorporated. Well, if you're not making any money at this time, how does a measure like that assist a small business? It does not assist in a small business at this time. And so those proposals out of the gate, they are no-brainers. They will not bring the required relief that is required to sustain and also to assist in the recovery of the small business after we pass through this period. As of now, what they need is relief from the disastrous situation. That is what they need. You can't say to them that they must go and incur loans in order to assist the small businesses. So you can also say to the small businesses, they must bring 20% to get a loan at this time at SIDU. I would have thought that our Minister of Finance, in order to show that he was thinking outside the box, because this situation demands thinking outside the norm, not the normal run-of-the-mill policy. Go down to see the say, listen, no more 20%. And we are going to reduce the interest on the loan by half, by 50%. We had in this country, when the NRP was a part of the federal government, programs such as the Seed, the Safe, and other programs where we gave monies to the small business sector, the WISE. Those were the programs that helped in the growth and the sustenance and the development of the small business sector. Loans, some loans were interest-free, some were at 1%. Some were loans, have grants. And a number of small businesses grew out of those packages that were geared directly at boosting the small business sector. And so I want to say to our voters, compare and contrast the response of this government when compared to the former government. Now, you're going to tell people in the small business sector who are hoping that we would have transitioned this period and we would use the Culturama season as a pickup, a period when there would be increased economic activity and we will make up for the losses that we have sustained period. But now, this reckless government has signaled or has said that Culturama is cancelled. So if you know if you are now operating a small business and you are going through this very difficult time, and now you are being told that there will be no Culturama, it's a double whammy. You now become depressed. You now be wondering how your business is going to survive. If the NRP was in power, we would have never done that. When we went through the global economic crisis of 2008, 2009, dire fiscal situation, we never entertained the thought about canceling our premier cultural festival in Nevis because we knew how many sectors of the economy depended upon the staging of our Culturama. And so, again, a decision taken by this government that has negative, adverse impact upon the economic situation, adverse impact upon lives and livelihoods here on the island of Nevis. I am sure somebody can measure out there what would be the economic loss or the economic shock to the economy as a result of no Culturama this year. I'm sure. I know a number of persons, I'm sure they started buying the chicken already to go to Charleston to grill. They would have started stocking up already, hoping that when Culturama comes, they will be able to make a bountiful harvest. But the cabal in CCM has said to you, you have to wait until 2021, if you are around, to get something from a culturama. They also said they were going to postpone your property tax. It's one of the measures. Postpone. I would have thought that the government, who is the direct beneficiary of the property taxes, would have said to the people of the country that I'm going to waive it. I'm going to waive it. So at the end of the 3 months or whenever, you will still have to pay your property taxes. And I'm sure you can't pay property taxes out of $1,000 a month. And so again, it is a demonstration that this government's response to the COVID-19 situation is not an adequate response. It is not a proper response that bring the necessary relief that our people in Nevis are demanding and are expecting at this time. And so when you weigh this government, you find the response of this government wanting. And there are other areas. And that would be for another time. Because I haven't spoken about the farmers and the fishers yet. Because those are areas, when you look at their response, you'd realize that it is no response. A fisherman brought the wire that they're giving them. I won't even use that wire for a chicken coop. It is of such a poor quality. Now, you can't put that in the ocean. It's going to melt. It's not proper wire. I believe they had it there because nobody wanted it. And so this idea about giving farmers a free roll of wire, that is of no use to them. I believe that if they had said they were going to give the farmers, the fishers, the ability to have access to capital, that would have been a better idea. But it's a normal run-of-the-mill policy. After hurricane, you give a fisherman a roll of wire. And so COVID-19 comes, you're giving the fishermen a roll of wire. And that is not what the situation demands. The Nevis Reformation Party understands what the situation demands, and that is why we have made adequate and proper proposals to assist the various sectors of our society. I would want to end there. For now, I wouldn't want to go much further because there are other matters to speak to. And so, Mr. Hector, I would conclude at this juncture.
We must all do our part to rid ourselves of this disease. For starters, let's practice good hygiene and social distancing. We continue to pray for our nurses and medical practitioners as they work tirelessly to prepare themselves to protect us from this pandemic. This message was brought to you by the Nevis Reformation Party.
For the best in news and politics, visit www.nrp2020.com.
As youths of today, we are the leaders of tomorrow. What are you waiting for? Join the NRP U-Time today.
We voting for NRP, the Performance Party.
NRP Minute News coming soon. Stay logged on to www.nrp2020.com.
We must all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nisbet, for your presentation. I believe you have made a case for yourself. You have made a case for your party. And the simple case as you have put forward is that an NRP government, an NRP in leadership would have done much better. Much better in terms of its preparation for this, much better in terms of the proposals that were put forward. It would seem that the fact that the Nevis Reformation Party was excluded from the dialogue, our citizens, our people are worst off. The crisis as it is and the state of panic has been caused by those in authority. I would want to say to you that next week we'd be here again to speak with you. And we ask you again to welcome us into your homes so that we can share with you the party's insight, the party's proposal. Tomorrow, those of you in the St. John's area, we ask you to join the NRP team as they seek to assist you in filling out the proper forms. We recognize that not much was done in terms of the planning. You're being sent to a Department of Labor that is closed. You have been sent to Social Security and you have been told that the package is not yet ready. And that is what we speak of, planning. You have had an opportunity to listen. And I believe any liberal-minded person would come to the inevitable conclusion that at this time in the history of Nevis, the NRP party would have done better. I would want to offer condolences to Marcella Westerman. Sad we had to lose her. Marcella is family. And it has been a long journey for her. It has been a relationship. I can speak of Marcella, conversations we've had in St. Croix, in Nevis, throughout, work we've done together. I have seen her in her happiest moments of joy. I have seen her in state of sadness. I know of her contribution to the village, her leadership within Low Street. I would even go back as far as her mother, grandfather, her father, Jenny Suki. We know the contribution. Marcella and the Westerman family is a signature in the Low Street area. I want to say to Marcella, Kimbo, Ibal, Leon, may you rest in peace. I know that was a painful part for him. And Leo, the grandchildren, baby, I'm not remembering, baby Joy. At this time, the NRP party mourns with you your loss. And we would want to wish that she rest in peace and rise in glory. I would want to say also, before I allow Mr. Nisbet, who have worked diligently tonight to give his parting shot and say goodbye, I would want to say to each and every one, I don't want us for a moment to believe that we don't believe in prayer. As Christians, we've been taught to pray. We've been taught to hope, knowing that God would see us through. What we cannot do is just allow a government not to do the proper planning that is necessary at a time like this. If it is not done, I believe it is our duty to call them out. We are all in this together. Our business, your friend, your sister, your brother is at risk at this time and would suffer. We needed to see the seriousness and commitment from the government. I would end there tonight until we meet again next week. I am Roberto Hector, saying to you, stay safe. Observe all the precautions that you've been told. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Hector. Just to wrap up in 1 minute and to say that the Nevis Reformation Party, in its proposal, would have outlined in a very comprehensive and meaningful way our policy as to how we deal with the health and economic fallout that flow from this COVID-19 situation. And any reasonable person, any prudent person looking at our policy initiatives would realize that the NRP party is indeed the party that has the interests of the people of the country at heart. We were out early with our program, our plans, with our message in relation to this matter. We were saying things early, even before the government of Nevis was saying anything. As a matter of fact, when people were cruising the world, when people were maybe running the country from their iPhone, BlackBerry, or whatever, the NRP was on the ground with the people of Nevis, telling them, prepare for what is to come. And if it comes, and the NRP was in power, this would be what our plan and program would be in order to protect, shield, and bring relief to our people. Instead, you would have experienced and you would have heard what the Concerned Citizens Movement in government would have not done in order to protect you, the good people of Nevis. And I said to you tonight, if a government fails on its primary responsibility, which is to protect the citizens and residents of the country, well, that government has to go. And I want to ask the people of Nevis tonight, I want to ask the voters and the constituents tonight, has this government discharged its primary responsibility to protect you? Has it done so? And if you're honest with yourself, you would say no, because the people in the country now live in fear. And some in the country see no hope whatsoever. And some look at the measures that have been announced to protect them, realize that they will not benefit at all. And if a government have you in a quandary with that level of uncertainty, I say to you tonight that you must use your vote wisely. Election have consequences. And so you must elect those who are prepared to discharge the primary responsibility, which is the protection of the citizenry. And the NRP has always demonstrated that we are ready, willing, able, and capable of doing that. Next week, when we back into your home, we will be speaking on the issue of education next week. Good night, and God bless you. And thank you for having us this evening.
We must all do our part to rid ourselves of this disease. For starters, let's practice good hygiene and social distancing. We continue to pray for our nurses and medical practitioners as they work tirelessly to prepare themselves to protect us from this pandemic. This message was brought to you by the Nevis Reformation Party.
For the best In news and politics, visit www.nrp2020.com.
As youths of today, we are the leaders of tomorrow. What are you waiting for? Join the NRP U-Time today.
We voting for NRP, the Performance Party.
NRP Minute News coming soon. Stay logged on to www.nrp2020.com.